Hello and welcome to the Philosophy Podcast, a weekly podcast whose mission is multifaceted. Each week when you tune in, you will find episodes that question best practices, challenge music education dogma, facilitate conversations about touchy topics, demonstrate pedagogies, and conversations where colleagues learn from each other. This is episode 268, More Music for More Students with Shane Colquhoun. There are some fascinating philosophical divides in music education. We've explored many of them here on the podcast, sometimes taking great heat for it. And we don't discuss them enough. Even coming from me, I would say we don't talk about these things enough. For example, what does it mean to have an inclusive music education program? There are a lot of people who have very different ideas about this. Enter Shane Colquhoun, who is an instrumental music educator who I think possesses a rare superpower. He can recognize areas where he both agrees and disagrees with the philosophies of others, including mine, as you are about to hear, and is not scared off by the conversation. His social media presence really challenges people to rethink their approach, just as he does here in this episode. And to his credit, this was a jovial and fantastic conversation. We ended up finding more places where we agreed than disagreed, which is how I find that these conversations often go. In this lively back and forth discussion, Shane and I compared notes on our philosophies of music education, exploring the importance of inclusivity, bridging gaps between student interests and school programs, and even the role of music notation. We emphasize need for innovative approaches to teaching music appreciation courses and the significance of creating spaces where all students feel valued, including the music interests that they have. The discussion also touches on the barriers to expanding music education and the necessity of adapting teaching methods to meet diverse student needs. You're going to want to stick around all the way to the end of this conversation. I had a blast in this conversation and really appreciate Shane coming in and pushing me a little bit, because that's what this show's all about. Stick around. If either of us bring up something that you find interesting or conversation starting, you can head over to the Philosophies Facebook page and start that conversation, or just jump in onto a comment thread that already exists and participate in the discussion over there. And of course, don't forget to subscribe for free to the Philosophy Substack. All you have to do is head over to substack.com and search Philosophy, and it will pop up. It is rising on the charts over there. We hit the top 50 education blogs over at Substack not too long ago. So head on over there and keep reading and sharing. Your music program or event deserves a platform that does it all, without the extra costs. With Ludus, you get seamless ticketing, built-in marketing, powerful fundraising, and volunteer management, where volunteers can sign up, schedule shifts, and track hours with ease. Need to sell merchandise and concessions in person? Ludus Retail lets you log sales by each group, track inventory, keep everything organized. Hosting music lessons or theater camps? They have a classes feature, which makes registration and student tracking effortless. And it's free for your organization. Thousands of programs already trust Ludus because they help you focus on what matters most, the performance. The Philosophy discount code can be used at mymusicfolders.com. This is a great place for you to get the choir folders that your program needs. You can also get robes at mychoirrobes.com, which is an affiliated company, and the checkout code works there as well. But it's not just folders and robes. You can get all types of choir-related equipment at mymusicfolders.com and get a discount when you enter the code. I'm not sure how much, if anything, out there has not gone up in price since 2020, but I know one thing that hasn't, and that is the membership to the Patreon and to the Substack to support this show. The people who are signed up over there as paid subscribers, as my thank you to them, they can get things like t-shirts from the philosophy.com shop. They can also get access to my Google folder of teaching materials that I've talked about on the show for over the years. And of course, they just want to help make sure that this show can continue. A big shout out goes to the producers and Inner Circle over at the Patreon page. These are folks that are really dedicated to keeping the lights on here at this show. Venture Studios, Chandler Smith, Brian Long, Michael Herron, Kyle Peterson, Steve and Kathy Kakachik, David Kowalczyk, Max Jackson, Angie Schilling, Rebecca Chalk, RJ McCracken, Michael Shimp, and Kyle Siddons. Okay, everybody, I'm here with Shane Colquhoun. And Shane is a music educator just like me, and also just like me, is somebody who likes to talk about music education philosophy on the internet with total strangers, which is something that I enjoy doing and Shane enjoys doing, and that's how we connected. So Shane, welcome to the podcast.
Greetings, Chris. Thank you for having me. I've been following you probably the last 4 or 5 months and been wanting to chat. There was something you posted about 2 weeks ago that really caught my attention. So I was like, hey, let's just talk this out as soon as we can.
Yes, and I've same with you. I've seen lots of your videos that are just really thought provoking, and so we're going to get into some of those things. But before we do, I would like for you just to share with my audience who are you, What do you do on a day-to-day basis and kind of a day in the life of Shane first?
Shane Calhoun, I am a dad to an awesome 8-year-old boy and husband to a beautiful wife who's a chemist at Army University. She's probably
Oh,
going to get
cool.
mad I gave that much info. But anyway, my day job, what I do for a living is I'm the assistant professor of music technology and contemporary music styles at Alabama State University. I'm in my 4th year there. Prior to there, I was a band director of 14 years, high school band director. I'm one of those bedroom producers and musicians that have been making music in his bedroom since he was 11 years old. Oh, probably further than that, 8 years old. So more music for more students is what I live by and what I believe in. Just a
More
tidbit
music
about
for
me.
more students. Yeah, I love
Yep.
that. I love that. Now, if you could just kind of share a little bit of like the superhero origin story of Shane in terms of the thing that you remember from your childhood that like says, hey, this is where I knew I was going to be into music, whether it was career or not, but like where music grabbed you. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. My dad tells me he knew from when I was like 2 or 3. Whatever. We used to go to museums and I was always drumming. But what I remember vividly was being 8 or 9, and at the time I lived in New York City. And I vividly remember getting my first album, which was Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style. My mother made me take it back because of language and whatever. And I ended up getting Wu-Tang's 36 Chambers. Not much better. But after that, I remember vividly making mixtapes from Hot 97 and recording music and doing the thing. Then we moved to Florida when I was in 6th grade. I joined the band. I started rapping and making beats, joined rap groups, and that's kind of how that's how it evolved for me. But what ended up happening was like the older I get, the more separated those worlds became, and it stayed that way throughout my entire career in music. Even as a student at a university getting a degree in music technology and business, it was like you did that there on this side of the building, but when it was band time, it was band time, and that's over here.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That's really interesting. And I wonder too, of course, I know that that's one of the topics you like to discuss
Yeah.
on your channel. That's something I hear you talk about a lot of how do we bridge that gap for students that have interests in music, but those specific interests are not necessarily reflected in their school music program.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, I'm into rap, but
Okay.
there's no rap program. There's no rap program in my school.
Okay.
So what do I do? Is there a place for me?
Well,
Is that kind of
yes.
what you're thinking?
That's my thinking. Exactly. That's precisely my thinking. And I think where's the place for me? It at some point becomes up to us, the teachers. Like I listened to your response to Evan Tobias, who I know well, and he was talking about reaching every student in the classroom, and you were like, this is virtually impossible when you have all these kids. Like I think the number you said was 250 kids in your choir program. Like how do you realistically meet? And I don't want to, as I talk about these ideas, I don't want to minimize them to make it seem like it's an easy thing to do. But what I question a lot with music educators is, do we even have the interest? Before we even get to the know-how, do we even have the interest of what our students are doing outside of school musically? You know, like I don't remember ever being asked, hey, like what are you doing? Like outside of band,
Right. Yeah. Okay. So here's how I would respond to that. So I'm 23 years in to public education. I've been at the high school level the whole time.
Congrats.
Thanks. And I can think of a ton of students in my life. I think I've probably taught over 3,000 students.
Wow.
Now. And I can think of a ton of them that have interests in music outside of choir. And I probably knew about it, like at the time. So one that comes to my mind, and just because it's similar to the story you're telling about yourself, I have this kid named Chris. He wouldn't care that I'm using his name because this was like 15 years ago. He graduated probably. And he was really into doing his own mixes, like you said. He was really into like kind of hip hop, doing his own DJ, I guess you would call like custom made mixtapes that you can rap over.
Yeah.
So like the computer side of things. And then of course creating lyrics, and he did all that kind of stuff. Of course, we had nothing like that in my curriculum.
Yeah.
Like that's not in my curriculum. My curriculum is basically learning how your voice works, learning the basics of music notation, learning repertoire, that like learning how to sing something in tune, learning how to build a chord, the very very basic structures of music through the medium of singing together. Right,
Mm-hmm.
that's the instrument we have. But like you said, showing the interest, like this kid Chris knew that I was interested not necessarily in the music he was doing specifically, but I was interested in him. And since he was interested in that music, he felt safe to come to just talk to me about it, share with me projects that he was doing, ask my advice if I thought it sounded cool. It wasn't reflected in the curriculum, but he was reflected in the class and he took my class for all 4 years and did those types of things. And so that's like the kind of thing I think about when I hear things like you're saying, because I have so many kids, I can't put a technology, like a music technology unit in my choir program. I just don't have the capacity to do that. But it doesn't mean I can't make that kid feel like his music interests are valued. Thoughts?
I would ask, you said he felt like he was welcome. And I think this is one of the
Yeah.
things that, as music educators, I would tell anybody that listens, part of our job is convincing and creating that space, right?
Yeah.
And although you're listening and you're asking questions and you're interacting, I would ask you, he was welcomed, but was his music welcomed?
It was in the contexts that we could.
So what is the could? Because I think I could argue that a lot of it is, and I've heard you say it twice now in your content and then here. I think the bigger argument is, where are we going to fit this, the space to fit it in?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also, again, there's going to be a lot of things that I may say that may contradict itself, but like, I'm very aware of human capital,
Mm-hmm.
space, time, family, decompressing, all of that. But like, I would ask, like, okay, so you listen, and that's cool. That's a lot further than most would. Like, I've been wanting to post on Facebook here recently this exact same question. Hey guys, do you know anybody rapping or making music in your school? If you do, send them my way, because I want to connect with them. But I think there is a greater depth we can go, because the other part about it is, when you were explaining, you used the words, and it wasn't directly said this way. You said my curriculum. So it's, I do this, I do that, I do this, I do that. Then we start to get into the conversation of, which is actually how we met on the social media, of what do we value as musicianship and music schools, and who gets to be musical.
Right. No, you're exactly right. I totally agree. And those are all valid questions. So in the context, I'm going to take it back to the original question first, which was that, like, how do I make that particular kid with that particular interest? Where do we fit his music so that he feels like his music is being respected at school? Now, in my particular program, this is not necessarily going to be like an answer for every program. It's just that in my particular program, we do choir concerts mostly, because it's a choir class. That's what they sign up for. But within that choir class, we also have a concert series, kind of a concert, I guess you could call it like a quarter prolonged project, that is like a pops variety type project.
Yeah.
Where the music is still vocal, because we don't have instruments in there. It's just all vocal stuff. But we pitch it to the kids as a variety show.
Okay.
In other words, we want to have there be as much different kinds of music over the course of the concert as we can come up with. And it's more of like a student-led thing, where they pick the song, they choreograph it, if that's part of it that they want to do. They come up with their own costumes. They come up, if they want to do that. Like, it's really just like, I tell them, I'm going to sit over here in the corner as much as possible.
Gotcha.
Like that's what we do. And then for this kid that liked to do the hip hop stuff specifically, he would always feature something at that concert. So he would come up with his own thing, where he would have mixed it himself. He would have come up with his own lyrics. One year, his senior year, he recruited a bunch of kids to do it with him, and like they had this like ensemble rap thing that brought the house down.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And in my big thing though is that, like, I'm teaching them music. I can get a lot more kids in the room through choral music specifically, because my biggest class is 95 kids. And so I can get a whole bunch of kids getting access to music education through that art form. And then that's one of the ways that I get them in the door. And they do other things as well. So yeah, go ahead. You've got thoughts. I see you're brimming.
You said through that art form. That was what you said, through that art form.
Yep.
Backing up, let me give you some flowers here. You're doing the work.
Yep.
That would have been my first
Right.
entry point. Like, where have you created a place and a space for Chris within your framework? And you've done that. You're doing the work. I also like the fact that you said when it's that pop series, you try to get out the way as much as possible. But you said that this is the way you can reach the most amount of kids at one time in this setting through that art form. So let me ask you a question. How many kids are in your program total?
5-ish, right, this year.
Let's go.
And that's a low number for us.
A low number. How many kids are in your school? 1,900. So let's round up both ways. Let's go to 2,000, and then let's go to 250.
Okay.
So potentially you're meeting only 10, and this is not a knock when I say this. This is just having the conversation. Potentially through that one avenue, you're meeting roughly 10% of this.
Right. Yes. And that, of course, does not include band and orchestra.
Okay. And what do those numbers look like?
20%. Yeah, that probably would get us to like 20%.
Okay. Which is exactly what it states in literature, where in literature they refer to the other 80%. So my argument then becomes, so are the other 80% not musical? And here's the other part that I just want to make sure I drill home. I presented at Eastman last week, and one of my first slides, I said, listen, guys, I love band, all right? I promise you, I love band, I love choir, I love the big three. So for me, it's not an or situation, it's an and. So now it becomes a conversation of, and you said it perfectly, you say through this medium, this is how there's a whole other 80% that possibly could be making music and making music differently. Would it be too much of a reach to find ways to reach them through other mediums?
In our district, it would be.
Okay, how so?
Meaning they would say no. And we don't have the power to just like add music classes. Like the process that would, in most school districts, that would take like 2 years.
I got you.
Just to get another class. But before I get to that, so this is something I think is really important.
Yeah.
Because I hear this 80%. Why aren't we reaching the 80% argument? So I want to zero in on that because I think that's I want to challenge that just a little bit. So is there a scenario where you think that we could reach 100% of kids in a 2,000 person high school with a music elective class?
Is there a scenario with a music elective class?
Could we get to 100?
I mean, I would say yes. I wouldn't say it would. I wouldn't say everybody wouldn't want to be there, and I wouldn't say that it's probable. And again, I don't necessarily know that. Yeah, I would say, thinking big picture, yeah, but it's probably highly unlikely in all likelihood. Get it to that 100%.
Yeah. So to me, my answer to that question would be that's just ridiculous to even ask. Of course, we would never get to 100%.
Yeah.
To think we could, and to think we could would be utopian.
Yeah, that's a great word, utopian. It would be utopian to get there. Yes.
Yeah. So to me, then the more relevant question than saying, hey, where's all that other 80%, is to say, what percent more than 20 do you think we could get?
That's precisely the question.
Could get to 30?
Yeah, no, that's
like, do you know what I mean?
No, I agree. And that's why I said a lot of the times, and I mean, you asked the perfect question to be the perfect foil. Like 80% is unrealistic, but it goes back to the comment that I made at the beginning. I'm just not convinced or sure that the majority of us, and I don't want to overstate, but I'm just not sure that we think in those terms of what can I do for more. And that's why I made the statement, more music for more students, much less, we can have the argument of music education for all. Like, you're right, if we're talking about what we're talking about. But yeah, more would be more. Like, what could we do to get to the 30%? What could we do to get to the 40, 50%?
Right. Yeah. And of course, I think you and I both are in total agreement. Like, if we were running our school, if we were in charge of the school and could immediately offer 7 or 8 more in it, like right now. So my school has 5 full-time music teachers.
Wow.
In a school of 2,000 kids. And that is 2 choir teachers.
Okay.
2 band teachers.
Gotcha.
And 1 orchestra teacher.
Okay.
And then we also have a I guess would be close to full-time pianist that plays piano for kids that need that. And that's a pretty close to full-time job.
Okay.
So 6 staff.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's not typical. You guys are blessed.
No, I know. I know that's a lot already. And so if I could like snap my fingers and make there be 12 music teachers, and outside of band, choir, orchestra, we also had like class guitar, and we had electronic music, like music mixing and producing type of classes, and all those things. I would, if I were in charge, I would absolutely do that.
Okay.
So I have no philosophical problem with having those things.
So what's
The
the
argument I
barrier?
sometimes, well, money. The district would have budgetary concerns that exist outside of music. So they would say, okay, music wants six more. They want to double their staff, but we also have other departments that want other positions, and they have other departments that want to add this class and that class, and so of course the reality is in school districts that they're always weighing one request against another request.
I get that. And
Yeah,
keep in mind the human capital part of it.
right.
Why is the solution to more classes hiring more staff as opposed to the five of you rotating or picking up, an extra class? Is everybody's schedule that booked?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. Our schedules are booked. Most of our instrumental teachers, including our other choir teacher, I'm the only music teacher in our building that gets to stay in the same building all day long.
Oh
The
God.
rest of them are the rest of them are moving elementary school to middle school.
So you guys don't have, okay, when you said five teachers, I thought that was just for the high school. That's like five teachers for the district. Where y'all are
No, no,
bouncing
no.
around and moving.
No, there's way more than that in the district. We have three big high schools in our district. So,
Okay.
our assistant, technically assistant choir teacher, is my assistant, and he goes to the middle school for one period a day.
Got you.
So he's mostly at the high school,
Okay.
and then the orchestra teacher is mostly at the high school.
Got you.
But then the band teachers are also mostly at the high school, but they hop over to the middle school to help with a class or two.
Okay, do
So
the middle schools have their own directors and these guys
they
just
do.
fill in? Okay. Okay.
Yes,
And
the middle school has their own directors
gotcha.
as well.
Gotcha.
Are you a director new to the profession? Or are you a seasoned director who is in a new place? One of my favorite tips for generating interest in the program and to instill buy-in is to plan a trip. There are so many options. You can go to Orlando, you can go to Ireland, or you can perform in a parade or a theme park. You can even take the stage at Carnegie Hall in New York. Wherever you end up, not only will your current crew look forward to the trip, but younger students will count the days until it's their turn to go. If you have no idea where to start, connect with Kaleidoscope Adventures at mykatrip.com. Yep, that's correct. And so it's there. I mean, it is pretty maxed out, and of course, we're all dealing with 200 plus kids, and so the barrier to adding more classes there is no more classes I can add. There
Yeah.
is, I would have to get rid of a class.
Gotcha.
And so the issue there is, for me, is that I have yet to see, and this argument that this is a very common music education philosophical argument that's come about in the last 10 years or so, is I've still yet to see a model of music education in a school that can get beyond that 20% that band, choir, and orchestra can get to. So to me, I guess that's my skepticism. I want to see the music program that's getting 30-40% and see what they're doing.
They're out there. They're out there.
Okay,
Like,
yes, then tell me about those.
so right now, my go-to conversation right now is in Atlanta.
Okay.
There are the band, especially at the high school levels, band programs are thriving. But right now, I think they have a music technology teacher in most schools. And I mean, the music technology programs, they're teaching DJ skills. They're having beat battles. They're having like thorough high school. And I think it's South Atlanta, I want to say. South Atlanta, North Atlanta are essentially like running record labels. So like, you've heard of Modern Band, right? So like they take in the modern band thing, but it's more like, it's more like set up like a record label where it's actually happening. I think, to your point, there's two arguments. So I guess it's not the better conversation, but the conversation that would be, I guess, super fruitful if we were putting our heads together is, how do we get there? I would still argue that most aren't willing to part ways with our traditions. That would be a thing. And then I think the other thing is really convincing the administration that really selling, as much as, let's say we didn't want to use the other 80% verbiage. Let's say we just, hey, we really have an interest in getting more kids involved in music and actually having the conversations of what can we do to have more music because
Yeah.
there's plenty of options. And the other thing that I believe is that it shouldn't look the same at every school because every school, the kids will have different interests. So like, whereas I talk about Atlanta a lot and their DJ scene. One of the benefits that they have is that they're in Atlanta where the music industry is right now. So they have a lot of partners that are coming into the school and a lot of orgs that are pouring in and making it work. But in other places, modern band is becoming more and more popular. Like in Kentucky, I think near wherever the University of Kentucky is, they have a couple full-time modern band teachers in the school. So to your point, it probably would require a little bit more manpower of people that can actually do it. But then the next problem is most teachers aren't trained to do it.
Yes, and I was going to throw that in there too because
Yeah.
you said it wouldn't look the same in every school because kids' interest is different.
Yes.
But it also maybe shouldn't look the same in every school because not every teacher has the same training and expertise. You could throw me in a music in a modern band class, and I would utterly fail those kids because I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, and that's part of the journey. I think that's
Right.
actually part of because in these spaces, we the teacher, our role changes. We move from the role of the master teacher to more so of a facilitator and a co-learner
Hmm.
or producer in these classrooms where in some places we're literally learning alongside the students in these things. And for
Right.
most teachers, that sounds utterly ridiculous. Which brings me to your post when you said if our teachers were dropped in a classroom 20 years ago, they would be
Hmm.
awesome based on all the student centeredness that they're doing and all this stuff. Now, I thought that your comment about the dopamine was brilliant. Never thought about it that way. But then I would ask, well, is it healthy that the way we're training teachers now is the exact same way we've been training teachers back then? That makes no sense to me. Two,
Right.
I don't know that they would be as effective because these ideas of cultural relevance and student centeredness are like things of now. So if you think people are looking at me weird now with this popular music stuff, how much worse would it have been 20 years ago?
Sure. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I don't actually think that's a disagreement. I
Okay.
think in that particular video, I was specifically talking about I wasn't even really talking about ensemble music in that video. I was talking about teaching in general.
Yes.
Like what do I have to do to just get a kid's attention? So when I made that video, I was actually thinking about my music appreciation class
So you do
because
teach music appreciation. You held out on
I
me.
do. Yeah.
You held out on me. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. I'm actually pretty new to that. I always, when I talk about that, I explain that I feel comfortable calling myself a master choir teacher, but I am not a master music appreciation teacher. I'm 3 years into that, and I'm still figuring it out.
I feel like you lied to me,
And
Chris.
sorry, I didn't
Because
mean to hold that.
music appreciation curriculum.
So it's in our district, it functions as a class that pretty much the only kids that take it are the ones that need to get their fine arts credit, but they don't want to be in anything else. Right. And so it is, and our district has a pretty robust, as I said, fine arts program in terms of the ensembles. And so lots of kids do those. And so it's a 1 year long class. I
Mm.
kind of wish it was a semester so we could do different types of like more specific short bursts of things, but it's a 1 year class. And so what I do is I guess you could describe it as kind of a buffet. I do a music history of the United States from 1900 to today kind of unit. So just like talking about America developing its kind of working through its cultural identity crisis related to music in the early 20th century. What does American music sound like? And kind of going from Dvorak into marches, into jazz, and into doo-wop and the blues and just how that all connects to the music that they listen to today. And kids enjoy that one. We have a lot of different listening examples, and the kids go on like a playlist hunt and all kinds of stuff from that. And then we also do a world music history unit in the other semester. So one semester has a history unit of the United States. The other semester has a history of the world outside of the United States. Of course, that is way oversimplified in the amount of time that I have. And then we also do a variety of other more hands-on kind of music things. So they do a ukulele unit. They also do a choose your own instrument and learn how to read notation, but for like a month. It's not very much, and a unit. And that kind of, we piece all that together over the course of the year so that they're doing different stuff throughout the year and kind of choosing different avenues to focus on through music. So they have a variety of ways within each unit that they can choose the things that they're interested in.
Gotcha. So when I said you lied to me, is I look at music appreciation classes. One, you did the exact thing that most music educators do when they get those classes. They teach some form of music history light.
Yep.
Right? But like for me, I believe those music appreciation classes, quote unquote, are like the stomping ground for where we could be as creative as possible. Now, let's take the district out of it, right? In my dissertation, I explained it as if I had a music history class, which I did. I take that back. When I taught at my high school, I taught that fine arts credit. So I saw 100% of the people in the school. Now, it wasn't all at once. It was throughout the course, because first I had it in 10th grade where I saw every 10th grader. And then,
oh, wow.
Then it switched and I requested, I'm like, no, I need to keep this going. So then I started seeing every 8th grader. What happens is a lot of that time, a lot of those kids would turn into band kids just because, I'm just the greatest person ever, right? Totally joking when I say that. But when you think of the music appreciation classes, there's tons of things you can do. Of course, you can do those survey-based things that you're kind of doing. Then you can do like performance stuff, ukulele, guitar, piano. Then you can do like technology-based things where it's making beats, computers, and then, Lord Jesus, I wrote it, but I can't remember the fourth category. But what it is like we don't imagine. I don't think a lot of music educators push the boundaries of those classes when you have the opportunities. And the reason why I said you lied to me because I just thought you taught choir all day. But you actually have access to the quote unquote other 80%. And now it's like, okay, so how do we turn that thing into not just a placeholder, but something that could possibly set that population of students on fire to whereas they're clamoring to get there. So now maybe we add a different thing. You know what I mean?
Yes, although in my environment, I don't have access to the other 80%. I have 10 kids in that class. It's a very unpopular class because most of the kids would rather be in choir, band, or orchestra, or they would rather get their fine arts credit by taking they're in the visual arts program. So they have. So it's not, they don't have to take my class. I don't have access to.
You don't have. So why is it an unpopular class?
I mean, I don't know. I started teaching it 3 years ago, and before that, it was someone else. But as my understanding of it is that the way I would explain it is that in our district, so many kids, because 20% is actually high.
Yeah,
like that's a pretty big,
yeah. Well, when we say the other 80%, it's really like 10% most places. So you guys are batting,
right? Yeah, it's hundreds of kids, and it's that want to be in this ensemble music program that we have, and a lot of them do multiple ensembles, and they're in all the things, and then also our visual arts programs are robust as well. So that's another several hundred kids that are involved in either digital graphic art making, painting classes, sculpture classes. In our particular area, we don't do any they don't offer dance or any other of those things as fine arts classes. But in Missouri, all they have to do is get one fine art credit. But that could also be theater. So they could take theater and they could get their fine arts credit that way. So we offer visual arts, theater, and music as the possible departments. And all of those, of course, between all three of those, we reach 100% of the kids.
Gotcha.
Because they all have to take one class.
Gotcha. So I guess I have two questions for you in the sense of, one, you said that the music appreciation class is not a highly desired class. So then my question would be why and what could we do to make it better? And then my second question is, using your example, or what could we do to make that more of a hotbed? I don't know. Maybe it's not possible. And I guess my second question, which they both work together, is do you have either the ambition or do you think it's feasible to, let's not say the other 80%, let's say what other musics we can do to get it to 30%?
Sure. Yeah. So if I could probably have 20 kids in that class and it would be great. Beyond that, we would have to create more sections.
Gotcha.
of that class, and then somebody else would have to teach a section, and all of that. But I would say, so first thing I want to say, I hinted at this before. I have no defensiveness at all about whether or not I am good at teaching music appreciation. I'm not. I tell the kids that all the time. I say, like, hey guys, over in the choir classes. I'm the old guy who knows what
You're
I'm doing.
dynamic.
In here, I am coming up with a new way to do this every year, and I'm still getting better at it. This class is better than it was last year, but I still want to make it better. So I am all open to these ideas. Like,
Gotcha.
these are, like, I want to be a good teacher for those kids, and I want to make it better, all of those things. But the reality that I face, or at least it feels like I face, is that one of the reasons that kids don't like it compared to the ensemble music classes is that in the music appreciation class, there's occasionally a paper to write. There is occasionally a project to turn in. There's work to do. Whereas in a choir class, they show up and sing every day, and that's pretty much all they do, and it's more fun. So they enjoy it more.
Got you. And when I'm speaking, I think I'm speaking to all, because one of the things that just grinds my gears more than anything is when music educators say they just dump them in my class.
Mm-hmm.
And out here, we have this problem where it's happening in band classes. It's happening where you'll teach 4 or 5 of those classes a day with one traditional class. So I think ultimately, this shift of more ultimately changes when we conceptualize how music is made and what's music made. Because I can give you a ton of ideas. I can say, hey, Chris, check out this, there's a DJ curriculum popping. Maybe you should introduce, get a grant and get some DJs, from DJ Hopper. I could say, hey, this modern band thing is good. The Music Will Modern Band Summit, the best conference you ever would go to. Why don't you come check that out? But it's like, if us, the teachers, are not reticent and open to that, then I think what happens is we end up leaning on those papers in the survey-based classes. It's hard because, again, we haven't been trained these things in school. Like in my dissertation, I think it was something like 4% of people said they received any type of training on contemporary music pedagogy, informal music learning, music as a second language, culturally relevant teaching, culturally responsive teaching, like TPAC, SAMR. Less than 4% of people receive that type of training. So I think it's going to take a level of exploration and stepping out there and doing the scary thing in order to push this thing a little bit forward.
Yeah. And on that front, especially with my music appreciation kids, I feel like I don't really have any philosophical pushback against what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with what you're saying. I think the barrier is kind of like you said a second ago, which is that I don't know how. Like so I'm giving them the types of assignments and units and projects, and to be fair, there are some units in my class that the kids really do enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I really think they do like the music of the United States history unit, because they get to see how the music they listen to, where it came from, and they get to learn the stories of that. And kids do enjoy that, and they tell me that that's like, this is like history class, but it's way more interesting than history, that kind of stuff. And that part I feel good about. Like, I feel good about my ability to teach them the cultural connections and in the United States. But what I don't feel like I know how to do is, like, I would love to have a more portion of that class be student directed, in the sense of, like, what do you want to learn about music in this unit?
Have you asked?
But my fear is that if I wouldn't know how to help them learn it, depending on what they want to do, and then B, how do I? Because there's another reality that we face is, how do I grade them? How do I know if they did a good job if I don't know that it's, like, if I'm not an expert in that kind of music? Does that make sense?
I 100%. And it feels like a counseling session. What I hear is the eye. And I guess if I was to leave anything with the audience, these idea of these student-centered approaches, you're not going to be the expert. And it's going to take some level of being comfortable with not knowing, but yet moving forward and exploring. You asked, how would you assess them? The same way you would assess any piece of music. Within reason. That's one of the conversations I'm having with my pop group now, is this idea of amateurism versus being professional. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does it take to get there. One of the things in the modern band pedagogy that I really like is this idea of approximation. So let's say we're just playing a 1-4-5-1 chord progression, and a kid can't get the chord. So maybe one person just plays the G, one person plays the B. You know what I'm saying? And in the G major chord, and you just moving it. So I don't think there's one exact way, and I don't think that fear ever goes away. I just think it's about taking that step. Like, have you asked them, do they make music? And how do they make music outside of class? I'm sure you've asked. You seem like a very conscious.
We did. Yeah, we
did. Does anybody play instruments outside of school? Guitar, drums?
I have one kid. In that class, I have one kid who plays a guitar outside of class.
Okay.
The rest of them have never touched an instrument in their life.
Okay, so in that case, if there was an interest to play guitar, what I would do is, let's say, if there was an interest to play guitar and I had the resources, I would get 4 or 5 guitars, and I would have him teach the class and learn alongside of him, get chord charts, and say, all right, bro, you're going to lead the class. And then, there's tons of resources. If you go to Jam Zone, you can get the charts. There are tons of resources out there that we can find and kind of fumble through. Most music educators are very highly intelligent people that if they just attempted, they could figure some stuff out. So I think to answer your question, that the key would just be to step out and try things, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah. That inspires me. I think I could do something like that. And I played the guitar as a kid, so I could do that, and I could help too.
You're lying to me, Chris.
Yeah.
Did you play guitar, or you played as a kid?
I did.
Yeah. So you there have probably more expertise than me in that area, like with guitar. So and it's finding those little things. Like, I have a set of DJ turntables. I use DAWs a lot, so that's a natural transition for me. I play bass. It's really about, you talk about the kids getting an ensemble experience. Music Will has a set of modern band books, just like your standard of excellence, just like your choir books, and, get a bass guitar, get some drums. My favorite, every session that I do, I always start with, everybody's a drummer, right? So I said, let's just keep quarter notes on the foot. All right, now we play eighth notes on the shoulder. Then you add the snare, left in hand. As trivial as that seems, you're actually playing drum set. So then what do you take those skills and then you transfer it over, you find a set somewhere in the building, and okay, hey, you try it. And it's just finding ways to be creative.
Right. Yeah, no, that's great. I love that. So yeah, and I think I've got I'm already brewing with some ideas. So my music appreciation class is going to really appreciate that we did this episode. Let's go to one more little topic before we're done today, because you and I have already online, we've had a little bit of conversation about the role of music notation and kids learning to read music, and what does it mean to teach that to them in a way that they achieve mastery in it. But at the same time, how do we incorporate, and I saw a video that I just watched it before we came on, of you talking about how some of the best musicians that you've come across don't read a single note. And I think that I liked your phrase of, they don't know a B flat from a flat tire.
Yeah, I've used that a bunch.
And that's great. And so again, I'm going to start from that point of agreement, because on this show, one of the things I'm known in the vocal music world for is I'm an expert in teaching kids how to read. I'm really good at it. And my kids can read at a professional level. And they get really good at it. And I think that's a really important skill. But at the same time, I completely agree with what you're saying. I'm a huge, and you might say I'm lying to you again, but one of the things that my wife and I do, like if we're going out to on a date and want to hear live music, we're not going to choir concerts. We're going to jazz in Kansas City. We're going to hear the house bands at the bar by our house. We love the live music that is colloquial, as you might call it. And I'm passionate about that kind of music too. And so I completely agree with both. And so I'm interested in your thoughts on how do we set up a music education system that, or how do we think about that in music education as like, here's this valuable thing we should teach kids how to do. But at the same time, we can recognize that people who don't know how to do it, it doesn't mean that they're not good musicians. Because I feel like I can do both.
Yeah. I think ultimately it comes back to access, right? And my argument with the notation is that access and balance. We have, and I've been guilty of it, where some of us as educators, we only view musicianship as the 5 lines and 4 spaces. So it's understanding and coming to the realization that music is being made that is very good, that is very popular at a very high level with without the understanding. So I explained it as if I'm a handyman, if I only got a hammer, I can only hit nails. But if I have a screwdriver or whatever, all these other stuff, now I can fix more things. So that's how we sell the value of music reading. So if I had a kid, well, back up. Thinking about how music is made, I think of it as one of the modern band philosophies, music as a second language, where there's five stages. So if I give my son comes in when he's one, he may just say juice. Then he may say when he's three, daddy juice. Then when he gets to five, he say, Daddy, may I please have a cup of juice? And we just move along that spectrum of gradually getting them in where they are and building to it. But what we do is first day, you come to band class, here's the standard of excellence book, and then we repeat time after time that if you don't do this, you're not a musician. And that for me is where it gets sticky, is just this idea of this is the only way to express musicianship. And I mean, it clearly isn't.
Right. I see. Okay. I think I understand what you're saying. And I think the beef, and so this is what I hear you saying, you tell me if this is wrong. The beef that you're having is not necessarily that band teachers or that choir teachers or orchestra teachers are teaching kids to read. That's not the beef. It's that you're teaching it the way they are teaching it to them, intentionally or unintentionally, is creating like a sense of internalized inferiority or superiority based on whether or not you know how to do these things.
Oh, I think that's the way to look at it. Yes, I mean let's look at that, and you kind of talked about it in your Tobias video. If you look at the way the higher education programs and music programs are set up, most kids can't get in because you have to audition, you have to be able to read music. And that's the curriculum, the way it's set up. So I just believe in it being a little bit more broader and us being more open to how music is made and consumed, I guess would be the best.
Right.
But you said it, I mean, there was nothing way to reset. I just wanted to expand a bit.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Now, my hot take, and this gets me in trouble sometimes, but my hot take is that I agree that music collegiate programs require, in a lot of music types, subgenres, you could say, do require students to be able to read, which excludes a lot of kids that have not been taught how to do that. I agree. My hot take is that I think it's because as music educators are terrible at teaching kids to read. I think that we have a major pedagogical gap. I know in vocal music, I talk to people all over the country. Almost none of us had instructions specifically in training literacy in the same way that, say, like our English teacher colleagues that teach in our buildings, they got training in how to teach kids to read. And we didn't really get that. We were already taught to read because we got up the ladder because we already knew how to read, and we got into the college. So then they teach us the things that we already knew how to do. And then they just send us off into the world. And then, because I remember my mom was a music educator too. So I don't ever remember not knowing how to read music.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think back that far. And so when I was a young teacher, I came out into the profession not having any idea how to do it. And so most of my kids from my early years didn't know how to read when they graduated high school. And now they all do. Mm-hmm. And so I think my argument now is that if we were just better at teaching it, then a lot of these inequities across the board would start to evaporate, because these would just be the things that kids are learning in school.
I'm right by you, Chris. I'm going to jump off the cliff and say that we don't do a good enough job teaching teachers how to teach. Yeah, I mean, like, the other thing that jumped out to me when we were talking about the new teachers jumping through hoops and competing with the cell phone, the second place my brain went was whatever happened to procedures in classroom management. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, right there, there's a breakdown. So, yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think as music educators, we miss the human side of things. And when I say the human side of things, I'm talking about the pedagogical, knowing how to teach, knowing how to connect with people outside of our discipline. Like, we're only able to, that first chair clarinet, that first chair soprano, that all state, those are the ones that we get. But somebody that's kind of that right outside of that connection isn't as things. So yeah, we totally agree there.
Yeah. One of the things that I tell my kids every year, we have kind of our choir program that is still the majority of what I do at my school. I have just the one music appreciation class. And then the rest of my teaching load are choirs. And we have a beginning level choir that any kid can join, right? So that you don't have to, like, any kid who wants to sing in my school can join that beginning level class, and they're going to learn
at
a
any
lot of
point
just
in time.
basic.
That's amazing. But they have to know how to read. But they have to learn how to read in that class. Okay.
They will learn how to read.
They will learn how to read because that's just, okay.
Yes. But they don't have to know how to do that before
to
they
get
come.
in. Gotcha.
Yeah, right. And then they have we have an intermediate level class and an advanced level class. And one of the things that I tell all the advanced kids is I have to remind them, because they get so good at it, at all the things that we're doing, but they get so good at it that they don't remember ever having to they don't remember not knowing how to do it. And so I remind them that our curriculum is not built for you. That's what I always tell my advanced kids. Our curriculum is not built for you. It's built for those kids who have never done it before. And I would like to remind you that you were once that kid. You were once that kid. And because kids ask me that all the time. When I was in 9th grade, did I sound like that? Or was I as clueless as that kid? Like, yes. Yes, you were. Because kids forget. They forget how hard they've worked. And so the entire curriculum is built on, in my world, and the literacy is equity episode that I did, it would be one if you're interested after this to look it up, where I make this argument that it's the kids that come to music programs with absolutely no prior experience. They're the ones that need a curriculum that builds skills from zero.
Mm-hmm.
And that does at first need quite a bit of teacher guidance but working towards the point of complete student independence. And when my kids get to their advanced level classes, I just hand them music and they go rehearse.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. And from what I gather from our conversation is that, it is beautiful. It is great. You believe what you believe. You believe that this is how this is done. You also seemingly, and from watching your videos, you have a system that works for you. And I mean, and that's great. That's great. It's just, more kids, more music.
Yeah.
More kids, more music. And I also like the fact that you're able to, and that's one of the things I ask music educators, like, even if you're focused on a lane, can a kid gain access to your program at any point in time and have a place?
Yep.
A place. So,
I agree.
Yeah. I did have another thought for you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go for it. It's your turn.
You're also missing, not also missing, that sounds so bad, but I think there's another opportunity for your music appreciation class that you might have overlooked. There are over 50 jobs, music-related jobs, that have nothing to do with singing and making music. So understanding or doing some research, and I'm working on a book about this, obviously, so I'll send it to you to proof or read and pull some ideas. So, like, how are we preparing, like, from what I'm hearing, everybody in your choir class, the way you teach and you're preparing them to either go major in music or to sing in some type of professional ensemble. How are we preparing the kids who may be interested in being an A&R, who may be interested in being a DJ, who may be interested in being a blog writer who writes about music, a talent buyer, and thinking about it broadly? And the thing that I think that you may, and this is where I say just be creative, what about podcasting for your music appreciation class?
Well, my school offers a class in that. I don't teach it.
You work in the land of milk and honey, man. Sheesh.
Yeah, but we have that's part of, in our school, that's part of like the journalism and broadcasting department.
Gotcha.
And so they have that kind of thing. I've helped them with some of because I've been doing this for a while, but I don't think that's a bad idea. I think that's a great idea. There's all kinds of ways that could be interesting. Now, I do want to correct one thing you said about what I do in my class. I actually don't teach them those things so that they can be music majors and so they can sing in choirs.
Okay.
So my argument is that this is a whole, like, I've done a whole bunch of podcasts on this and the science of it. But my argument is that if there were no other reason at all to teach kids to be good music readers, other than just the brain benefits alone of what that does for kids, that would justify it all by itself. I don't think I need any other reasons.
Because it's almost like learning another language, right? So mentally it does.
It is not almost.
Yeah, no, it is like learning. I agree. Yeah. The only flippant argument I could give is, so outside of that, they're not going to use that skill anywhere else. But to your point, the brain development and the skill. So I don't disagree with that at all.
They're not going to use calculus either.
Listen, we're going into another podcast now.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
But I would still say that it's good for their brain to learn it.
Yeah.
Our brains learn how to learn. Like, we learn how to learn. And so when we learn these new skills, like reading music, like advanced calculations in math in our head, learning to read a new language, to speak a new language, that's all enhancing our neuroplasticity. And we're able to then think about more things deeply. There's tons of research that connect music reading with language acquisition of all kinds. That scholarship is easy to find.
Yeah.
So to me, yeah.
To that question,
yeah.
Do you think, and I agree with what you said, do you think this idea of literacy and music reading, so to speak, at times can be a barrier for kids to do music?
Not for me. No.
You're the exception to the rule. Like, you're good at what you do. When you say not for me, you're talking about not in your program or not in your opinion?
Not in my program, but not in my opinion if we knew how to teach it well.
Okay, so it goes back to we're just not teaching. Okay, no, that's fine. And I mean, I could say the same thing with the non-traditional stuff. I think a lot of people are afraid of it because they're just not. So I totally get that stance. Gotcha.
I agree.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think you'll appreciate this because I think this is where our philosophical vibes would probably be the most in line. So when I was a younger teacher, long story short, but there were some changes in my school district because I've been in the same school district now for 20 years. And so when I first started in this district, every single 8th grader in the school district had to take they only had 2 choices in 8th grade. They could take either drawing or vocal music. Those were the only 2 choices that they had. And so I usually would get like half the student body as 9th graders in my choir. Now they gave the kids more choices, which means they can get through 8th grade now without either music or art, which means my numbers are lower than they were 20 years ago. But that's because I don't ever meet those kids anymore. But my retention level of kids once they take my class is higher than it's ever been. So they don't quit once I get to them. And the reason I'm telling you that is that I look back now on my earlier career and I was getting so many kids. What I was really doing was talent scouting. I was not teaching.
Gotcha.
What I was doing then was I've got all these kids, and what I need to do is figure out which ones are the best music readers, which ones are the best singers. I need to nurture them so that they'll go forward in my program and make these great choirs someday. And I look back on that, I would have never admitted to that. Had you said that to me when I was, if I had said that to my old self, I would have been so mad. I would have been like, no, I'm not. I care about these kids. Like I'm not being exclusionary. Yeah. But I look back on it now, and that's what I was doing. I was looking for the good ones.
And again, I would line up with you and say most of us are probably doing that.
Right, and that's yes. And so I think your critiques of these music education problems are dead on. My only rebuttal is sometimes that's not always the case, because sometimes we have, and that's one of the things that we talk about on the show a lot. How do we make sure that we're not doing that? Like, how do we make sure that our pedagogy is so on top of things that we can take a kid who does not know anything, and still teach it to them? Because like, if we call ourselves teachers, why are we trying to find kids who already know how to do the thing we claim to teach?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm thinking of the question. I hear what you're saying. Yes. Yeah, and I think, we don't even have to go back down the rabbit hole, but I guess my brain goes to what happens to the kid that's doing the thing that we don't know how to teach, but then we're just kind of going back in circles and doing the thing.
No, I agree. And we can go back, like, can the teacher
that's some good stuff.
Be a teacher? Yeah, no, that's really good. Yeah, that's really good. Well, Shane, this has been really fun. I could do this for another 2 hours, but my audience will zone out. I appreciate this. This is fun. And let's stay in touch and continue to exchange ideas, because I really love that you challenge my ideas and sit there and listen as I challenge your ideas. That's very rare.
Likewise. This is the first pod I've been on in this environment where it was like, it's like, I know going in that, hey, we're going to disagree on some stuff, but it was great. I agree. Like, we need these discussions. And again, I just say that it's about balance. My whole thing is at 1:00 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I teach the wind ensemble, the second wind ensemble. And then at 2:30, I teach the pop ensemble. On Mondays, I teach the wind ensemble at 1, and then I teach music technology at 3. So it's possible. We just have to have the interest to go get it, man. But I really appreciate the time and the conversation.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, thank you so much.
No problem, man.
Thanks. Bye. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of a conversation. If you are still hearing my voice, that means you're one of the MVPs, one of the diehards, one of the real ones, as the kids say. So if you are willing on the way out to check out a few different ways that you can help me continue to make this show high quality. One, use the promo code. That's the biggest one at Sight Reading Factory, at mymusicfolders.com, at mychoirropes.com, at graphitepublishing.com, and endeavormusicpublishing.com. All of those take the Choirosophy checkout code. And of course, now the newest one is 3-Minute Theory. You can get a 15% discount when you enter Choirosophy at checkout there. And of course, going to Apple Podcasts and leaving a positive review is very helpful there, and sharing the episodes to your colleagues in real life and on social media. All of those things are incredibly helpful and allow me to continue to create this resource for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.